The human mind works in mysterious ways, and one of the weirdest things about it is the way we seem to always blame ourselves for what we did, didn't do, didn't get to do, didn't do well, or quick enough, and so on. Have you ever laid in bed at night, overthinking these things? I know I have. The feeling of guilt can haunt you for years, stop you from living your life to the fullest, and even drag you into a depressive state. So, is there any way to escape it? Yes, there is. Hi, you're watching Wisey, and today we're going to talk about why we sometimes experience excessive guilt and how to stop blaming ourselves in order to live happier and healthier lives. As usual, before we begin, make sure to click on the notification bell and subscribe to our channel for more videos about anything and everything. What is self-blame? Self-blame is a cognitive process in which someone attributes the negative consequences of events to themselves, thinking that these bad things are a direct result of their actions, inaction, or character. Doesn't matter if it's actually their fault or not. The process is closely tied to the feelings of guilt and shame, two of the many moral emotions that help us form moral judgments and make morally right decisions. The problem is that some people are hyper-focused on these negative feelings. In a way, shame and guilt fuel our self-blaming tendencies, but at the same time, the more we blame ourselves, the more we experience these emotions. It's a vicious circle, and in order to understand how to get out of it, you must first realize what causes you to feel ashamed or guilty. The roots of self-blame. Of course, every person experiences self-blame in their own, highly individual way, but nevertheless, there are a few common factors that can heighten this unhealthy habit. One of the most common ones is trauma. Who would have guessed it, right? It always seems to be at the root of our mental health struggles, and self-blame is no exception. In fact, it is a very normal response to a traumatic experience. Take childhood neglect, for example. As kids, we don't have the capacity to step beyond our experiences and understand that our caregivers aren't always capable of meeting all of our needs. So, for example, if a child doesn't get enough attention from their parents, they won't think, "My parents aren't spending enough time with me." They'll think, "Something must be wrong with me because why else wouldn't my parents want to take care of me?" Then, as this child grows up, they internalize the idea that if other people mistreat them, it means they're somehow to blame for not being good enough. Excessive criticism from parents, teachers, and even friends can also lead to heightened feelings of shame or guilt that follow us well into adulthood. And, in even more extreme cases, they can arise after a person experiences some form of abuse, be it physical, verbal, or emotional. Moreover, it doesn't matter when you experience trauma, as you can fall into a toxic cycle of self-blame at any point in your life. However, children are much more vulnerable, as they are yet to develop psychological defense mechanisms to deal with traumatic events. That's why they can be so deeply affected. Another common reason why we so often blame ourselves is a little less obvious. It's our subconscious desire for control. Yes, you heard it right. In real life, there are always circumstances beyond your control, but it may be hard to accept this fact, especially if you're the kind of person who hates feeling powerless. So, you turn to self-blame, creating an illusion that actually you're in charge of what's happening. You think, "It's my fault, therefore, I'm in charge of the situation," even though you're not. How self-blame affects your life. As if self-blame and the accompanying feelings of guilt and shame weren't bad enough, it turns out that they can have even worse consequences for your life. Basically, constant self-flagellation leads to negative thinking and catastrophizing. This, in turn, ruins your self-esteem and creates a fertile ground for all sorts of mental and physical problems, including depression. Okay, why don't we take a little break with the quiz? Do you know how many stages of depression there are in terms of severity? A, 1, B, 3, C, 7, D, 10. And the correct answer is B, 3 stages. The current revision of the International Classification of Diseases, ICD-11, distinguishes between mild, moderate, and severe depression. If, at some point, this mental illness stops developing further, then doctors consider this the degree of severity of depression. Now, if you have a tendency to self-blame and you want to finally escape it, here are a few steps on how to do it. How to stop blaming yourself. First and foremost, you must separate the concepts of responsibility and guilt. People who constantly engage in self-blame often have trouble separating the two, thinking that if they take responsibility for a mistake they've made, it must necessarily entail some form of self-flagellation. In reality, though, responsibility is about acknowledging that you can and should control the outcome of the situation. It's a position of strength. Meanwhile, guilt is about acknowledging that you've done harm to someone else. Two totally different things, as you can see. Now, the next step is to change the way you talk to yourself. You can try the following exercise. Write down your thoughts and try to respond to them as you would to a child, in a calm and caring manner. Lastly, try to be more forgiving, not just of yourself, but of others as well. As soon as you stop holding other people up to impossible moral standards, you'll become less hard on yourself. We are all human beings, and making mistakes is just part and parcel of life. If all else fails, remember that you can always talk to a mental health professional, and you don't need to have a mental health diagnosis in order to do it. Call a therapist as soon as negative thoughts start to pop up and talk about what's bothering you. By the way, here's our Wisey fact of the day. Did you know how widely spread depression is? According to scientists, it affects 3.8% of the global population, including 5% of adults and 5.7% of people over 60. All in all, about 280 million individuals suffer from depression all over the world. Considering how prevalent this mental illness is, it's mind-boggling that there's still so much stigma around it. It's always okay to ask for help when you need it. And remember, this journey is less about escaping self-blame and more about finding self-acceptance. That's it for today. Hope you liked the video, and if you did, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stuff about anything and everything. Thanks for watching, and until next time.